Good afternoon. I mentioned yesterday if this thing jumped out again that I would do a tutorial on how I'm going to fix it. So let's just do it. And I need to change this water. I was about to change the water and I thought, well, I was grinding on one little small piece of glass and it popped out of me. So usually, let's go back here. I took this mesh thing off and it jumped out so violently that it flipped the belt off and threw the cover off. That's all right. We'll figure it out. So I've left all of that just like it was, because that could be what happens to you as well. Okay, so then I showed you yesterday how you take this thing off. Let's put it back on here. There it is. Yeah, the belt's in the way. It fits up in there like that, and then there's a little screw that goes in there that holds it in. You unscrew that screw, and the nut, that's cool, isn't it? The nut's on the other side, and it's captive, so it's not going to fall out of there. All right. Generally, not always, there are times when you need to replace the belt. This ring is I'd say about 60-70% gone, so I'll leave it in there. And I'm looking at the belt. The belt actually looks pretty good. And the way you figure that out, man, I think these things are expensive. Okay, here's a brand new belt. Okay, get this camera up here nice and close. And we'll look at that belt again. Maybe we do need to replace it. I don't think so. See the little groove that's in the center of that belt? Let me get something to mark with. This video will only apply to people that have a ring saw. If you've already figured out how to do all the fixing on it, you won't pay much attention to this. Anyway, the groove is very small there, and that's where the ring, and you can see the ring right here. It's a ring saw, right? And that ring is covered with tiny little bits of diamond. All right, so there's that small groove that ring sets in. So usually how I determine, and we'll just leave that out in case we need it, how worn it is. Let's put these up side by side. So you can see that the groove on this belt is considerably larger than the groove here. But in my estimation, in my experience, it looks like it's still good for, a few more hours. It's not worn out. Or at least that's my opinion yet. So if the belt's not worn out and your ring is still okay, then it always goes back to here. And since it hopped out on us yesterday on a video, and I wasn't sure exactly why it did that, but I thought, I put it back together and it started running, so I thought, okay, we'll leave well enough alone. But when I was I've used it quite a bit today. I felt like I'm on borrowed time with this thing. So let's see what this looks like. For those of you that have not opened this up, this is actually pretty simple, and I'll show you what's wrong. And I think it's what's wrong with this one. Okay, so this little Phillips screw, you take off both of those. I'll get it out of there. There's one. And there's the other one. The whole thing came out, okay. Now here's what we're looking for. Yeah. Okay, and these are very worn. Let's get one of them, and I'll show you a brand new one. Big difference. Okay. Big difference. That's why this thing's not running right. Because here's a brand new one. This is the guide that holds that ring as it spins around and around, and it keeps that ring straight. Okay, you can see on this particular little, they call these grommets, this grommet right here, how worn one side of that is, because I've been pushing the glass one way or another. Okay, the other one is just as bad. So that's worn out. Those are worn out. Okay, now we have two new grommets. These things, believe it or not, I think these are, I don't know where I got them. I usually search around, try to get the best price. I've got this bag, and then I got another bag. I swear these are $3-4 a piece, if you can believe that. Anyway, they last quite a while, but I use them a lot. Now, the next thing you need to consider, there's a bearing inside here. Is that bearing any good? Well, there's a way to determine that. I'm going to take this little awl and shove it in there. And that bearing doesn't feel too bad. See it spin around? So I would say that bearing is good. Okay. Let's take a look at this one. See it spin? Now that one felt a little bit better than this one. Okay, now the next thing you look at is when you push it on this little shaft right here, is there any movement which would indicate that the balls inside the bearing are worn out? Those bearings appear to be all right. Now I have extras, and here's something you may want to write down. It's not that easy to find these, and then you find them, and somebody will have a selection of 35 different bearings, and you've got to get the right one. Well, the one you want, take a picture of this. You want an 1/8 inch arbor hole, which is that little hole in the center, and 3/8 inch diameter. And that's how, let's pull one of these out. I'll pull a brand new one out. Then I'll show you how to get the easiest way. Let me get this so you can see what I'm doing. The easiest way to get this bearing out of those. Okay, so that's 1/8 inch, that hole, the arbor hole. The bearing is 3/8 inch in diameter, and this is important, and it's 5/32 of an inch thick. So you got to have all of that right, and if you don't, then you'll get a little. Here's a whole little sleeve of bearings I bought that don't work because they're too thick. I don't know why I keep them. I'll just throw them away. Genius. There, because that's just going to mess me up. All right. So there's what you want. 1/8, the arbor hole, 3/8 diameter, and 5/32 of an inch thick. Okay, I don't think we need bearings. I've replaced plenty of bearings before, but I don't think we need them. Okay, now what's the easiest way to get these out of here? All right, take that same little tool, push it up in there, and twist that bearing inside that little grommet. Pull your tool. You could do this with a small screwdriver too. And just slide that bearing out of there. Just like that. And the reason we're going to take that out is because we're going to use it again. That grommet is shot. And if I should have, and I didn't do it, I wouldn't be broken down right now. If yesterday when this thing quit on me yesterday, if I had taken this out, because that's really that grommet's in bad shape. There's a brand new one. Look at the difference. So that's what caused, and I'm explaining this thing to you, that those grommets sit in that holder right alongside this ring, and they keep that ring in line, and that ring has to stay in line with these grooves and these large hubs or pulleys here. And if this thing's spinning like crazy, right? If that ring starts moving around too much, it'll get on the side of one of these pulleys, and when that happens, boy, it locks up. And it's my fault for it even being broken down here today. All right, so we're going to keep that bearing, and we're going to throw this grommet away. Okay, here we go again. Just put your little tool in there. You don't have to go all the way in there like that. And just get enough of that tool there to be able to twist this bearing. See, this thing's real flexible. See the bearing twist out? And throw that grommet away. Now I'm going to test these bearings one more time. Boy, there's a rough spot This is I know I've worked in the industry for a lot. There's a rough spot right. You can feel it kind of grind a little bit. Although the bearing's running nice and smooth, that means there's some problems in there inside that tiny bearing with these. This is a ball bearing, right? There's some balls in that bearing that are not rotating real well. Throw that away. Now I'm going to do this one. So, I didn't catch that when it was on the grommet. There's just although the bearing is working, there's a little bit of roughness. Well, it just makes no sense to tear this whole machine down. Now, these don't cost much, I don't think. I don't remember. I swear I got these on Amazon. Okay, I got enough to rebuild this thing 3 more times. Okay, here's a brand new bearing. Oh, and that's just smooth as silk. Okay, how do you put it in there? Okay, you take it, left hand, right hand, whatever you are, and push it in there. See it? I've just pushed it in there. All right, and then take your little round tool, get in that little hole, and then just twist it around. There the bearing is set. Okay, same thing, just shove it in there. See that? And then get your little round tool. It doesn't have to look like this. Hopefully I have something else that might work. Yeah, here's a little picker I use on some things. Any little thing will work. I think that round thing I had works better. Let's get back. I want to prove myself right here. Here's a little thing. It's got a little round. You just get into that center of that bearing and twist it around till it sets itself. And now, the reason that 5/32 of an inch thickness of the bearing is so important, because that's the size of the groove inside this grommet. And the bearings that I threw away were too wide. They're about 7/32. So you can't get them to set inside the grommet. Okay, now, that's about all that can go bad on this thing. So let's set that right there. And that right there. And put the screw in here and the screw in here. And now we're going to run, famous last words. About the only thing left that can go bad now is the belt. And I think the belt looks pretty good. If this thing quit on me again, I'd change the belt, but I don't believe it's going to quit. Now, don't bear down on these real hard. Just lightly tight is plenty enough. You don't want to strip out. Let me show you something here. Let's do this. There's a permanent. Get this out of here. Trying to show you something here. Here, get a hold of it this way. There you go. There's they have a female threaded fitting right here, and they've set that fitting in this plastic and heated the plastic around that fitting. If you get real froggy with your screwdriver and you twist on that too hard, you're either going to strip the threads out, and that's brass, by the way, because they don't want it to rust. You'll either strip those threads out of that thing, or you may break it loose from that plastic housing. Then you're going to get real trouble. Now, you can buy this. In fact, I've got a brand new one in my sack here. All right, now what I want to do before I put this on is let's try to get this assembly here back together. And I usually have, I don't have too much trouble with this, but once in a while this thing will make a believer out of me. Okay, down here in the bottom of this thing is a spring-loaded. You can take it out of here. You know what? Maybe we should do that. Maybe that'd make more sense. Why don't we do that? And I'll get it up here where you can see it. Yeah, why don't I do that? Maybe I should unplug it too. That'd probably be pretty smart. That's probably the first thing you should have done. Where I used to work, you'd get in trouble for that. Okay. Goodness gracious. All right, here we go. Put all this stuff beside. Okay, you can see what we're doing here now. Okay, the ring is hopped out because the belt is hopped out. So let's see if we can, before we hook all this up, I'd like to get this belt around this ring first, because that's kind of the hard part. And see, belt's going to go around that ring and then around this pulley here. So that's what we're going to work on first. So we want to get around this pulley right there. And we also want the ring to be in the center of the belt. Okay, we got that done. Yeah, that's actually, it's easier to do that if you've got this part of this thing undone. Now what I do now to thread the rest of this is, here's this spring-loaded idler. And if you can see what this does, it's a spring, and when they call it an idler, is it takes up any slack as this thing continues to move quickly, and it keeps tension on the belt. So rather than have to fight against that, we'll take it off the idler. Now we have it off the idler, which gives us enough room to thread it through the drive. Okay. Man, I can't remember if it goes. Yeah, I was about to put it back here. That's not good. All right. So we're going to go up. Now bear in mind, we'll come back and kick it under the idler here in a minute. We go around this wheel, and see the teeth on the belt? That means that this is the drive. This is the motor. So that means that the teeth are going to have to touch the belt, right? And here's why you want to pull out of here, because you got to get all this back up there. Now, it's completely threaded properly. Now we're going to try to get it down and get the idler. And see, it's so much easier now to slip the idler back in the idler. There it is, threaded. Okay, now you want to see if this is working, or counterclockwise is the drive on this thing. Well, so how do you know that? The ring is going to come at you, as you saw, right? Driving itself into the table. The ring coming at you. If it was opposite of that, when you put your piece of glass on there, it would jerk the glass up. So because the ring is moving down into the table, that keeps the glass pushed down against the table as you cut. So that means that, see, I'm driving the ring counterclockwise because here's the drive. And I'm just doing this to make sure I've got everything lined up. See, and everything's right. See, now if you have to work on this thing, you just kick yourself off that idler. And the method at which I showed you to put the belt in and all that's a lot easier. You want to get off this drive and do all of that. If you're trying to get the belt and the ring on while you're still connected to the drive, it gets real difficult in here because everything's so tight. So let's go back and just kick the idler up. Okay, I want you to see what see the idler move? Okay, and that idler takes up the tension in this belt going to the drive system. Now these do fail, but not very often. And there's another whole video of how you change out the bearings on these things. And I went to the University of Hard Knocks on these things here. So if I have to, at some point, change these out, I'll do another video on them. That's another whole program. Okay, so I think we're about ready to roll here. Okay, what we could do, there's a lot of people have trouble with this thing. I mentioned in the video yesterday when this thing blew up on me that there are times at which I'll put some good tape around here and hold this thing on. There's people with bungee cords and everything else. holding these on. Now we won't put this on. Well, we can go ahead and put this on and we'll just jack it to the top and then we'll set it when we get it in here. Okay, now the best way to install this, and I'm sure there are people that would unscrew this thing to get it on there and then screw it back in. You don't have to do that. You come up here and just work this back and forth just a little bit. Whoop, you got to get lined up with a hole there. Famous last words. Here, we'll do it this way. I'm just about to get it. There it is. All right. And let's see. We'll set this thing up just right there right now. Let's get our screw back. Put this in. Now this is going to be tight to start with because it's brand new. And you won't notice that. And then if this thing blows up here, and this is another, you don't want to make that super tight. In fact, we wanted it loose because we were going to move it. Okay. So I should change that. I'll put this back in here. We'll run it a minute, and then I got to go change that water. That's about the cheapest thing you can do to keep one of these going. These things got to where they're. I think the first Taurus 3. I've got a Taurus 1, a Taurus 2, and a Taurus 3. The first Taurus 3. Let's go, genius. I'm looking where I got that cord. The first Taurus 3 that I bought. There it is. I still don't have it yet. There it goes. There's a little platform it sets on down here. The first Taurus 3 that I bought, that's where I paid well under $300 for it, I think. I've got more junk sitting around here. All right, here we go. Let's plug this in. And if now, after I've done all this, let's put this in so we don't have water flying all over the place. And I'll change that. I'm not going to run it very long because I can run it a couple minutes. It ain't going to hurt it. But that water needs to be changed. Okay, so that's a pretty good spot to put this thing. I mentioned yesterday, and let me pull this back out and make a key point here. You want, whatever glass you're using, most people are not using drapery glass. Let's get a regular piece. I'll put this back in here for just a second. Most people are not using drapery glass because they don't have any. And it's so hard to find. So this thing can be set way up high like that. This is just my opinion, but you want to get that thing down as low as you can and still be able to get your glass under it. I'm seeing if it'll go any further. That's as low as it'll go. Okay, I run mine as low as it'll go. Of course, I can't now because I'm using drapery glass, which means I have to raise it. But you want to run that as low as it'll go. And if it came from the factory or something with it up here, a lot of people are operating with it up there. There's a little bit of a liability to that, and I'll tell you what it is. Let's pull this off, and you can see this will make sense. Okay. The further up this guide is from these two wheels, the less guidance that the ring has running through those two wheels. So that means that it allows you to move around more. You don't want to move around more. You don't want to do anything but feed the glass into this ring. The ideal situation would be that this never moved left or right, back or forward. It just stayed in one place. If that was the case, then we wouldn't be having any of these kind of troubles. But they have this guide here, and you want that guide, you want the distance between the guide and these two wheels right here to be as short as possible, because that gives more guidance to the ring going through the two rollers there. More stability for the ring to go through those two rollers. The further up, less. So anyway, that's my 2 cents with that. All right. Now we're going to see if this thing runs. Now, if it blows up on me and throws itself out, the next thing to change is the belt. That would probably fix it, since we've changed out the bearings and changed out the grommet. I'm trying to get along here on a belt that's, I don't know, that belt looked about maybe half. So let's see what happens here. Did you notice that thing went straight down? I didn't tighten it up. We'll just tighten it right there. And the reason it shoved it straight down is because that ring is rotating, going counterclockwise, bringing everything down to the table. So the ring is coming at you. And you want to look in here, you need to see those two bearings, or those two grommets moving, just like that. That means that if the bearing goes out on either one of those, it'll lock up. And all that'll happen is it'll tear a hole right in the grommet right there. And then here you are. And here's another thing. When you got glass in here, take your time. Let that thing do the work. If you start pushing, you won't push very long till you're going to go too far this way or too far that way. And you're going to hit those rollers and this thing's going to jump out and lock up. In fact, it'd probably be a pretty good idea for me to, when I get this water out of here, I'm going to tape this thing up. See, it's not exactly together perfectly. That's a weak spot on Taurus's Gemini's, who makes these. Gemini. I wish Gemini, and I'm not soliciting, hell, nobody ever gives me anything. But I know one thing. I know machines pretty good. And if Gemini would send me some prototype for whatever they've got replacing this thing, I'll road test the heck out of that thing, because I work every day, and I could incorporate whatever their prototype is into my program here. Speaking of program, hey, we're rocking and rolling over here. Look at this. And I'm figuring I'm going to finish this here this afternoon. Whoo! That thing is, see, I'm going to the center, getting it dark. So anyway, I know for people that are not mechanically inclined or don't know how to operate on or fix one of these things, I swear that's a valuable lesson. And I wish somebody when I first got one of these, I didn't know anything about it. And man, so you go to the Gemini website or whatever, and they got little or no information about what I'm talking about, fixing this thing. Heck, anybody can run it, but fixing it's another whole program. And they're now up nearly $600. You need to know how to fix one of these, and I know how to fix one. I never make statements like that. I'm knocking on wood here. All right. Well, I hope that's been of some benefit to the people that have one of these. And and I want to mention again, I'm not ripping Gemini, because this saw right here, if this was a car, it would have about 175, 200,000 miles on it. Right about 200,000. Because oh gosh, I cut the whole wisteria lamp out on this thing. So there you go. It's been used a lot. And I have a brand new one still in the box, because they're great saws. You just have to maintain them. That's all. Okay. Well, that's all I have. I appreciate it. We'll come back. Maybe, I don't know. Well, we have to figure out what I'm going to do with these. Woo, look at that. Anyway, this is so exciting. I'm happy about it. There's my boys right there. KC. All right. Thank you.